with the Australian Communications Consumer Action Network, have been responsible for ACAN's work and access to communications for people with disability for over 13 years. Also on the stage with me is Gunilla Aspring, also somebody who's worked tirelessly and for many years in the area of accessibility for people with disability and accessing telecommunication services in Australia, and possibly the first person to put government purchasing of accessible ICT onto the Australian public policy agenda in 2001. The speakers, we've got a great group of expertise and experience from a diverse group of presenters. Our first presenter today will be Bree Norton, who's coming from the Australian perspective and digital strategist who's worked for many years across multiple areas, including civil society, public service, and the private sector, in promoting access to information and communications technologies. Our second speaker is Greg Alchin, coming from Australia again, long-time advocate for the inclusion of people with disability. Greg's experience runs across the educational sphere, both vocational and tertiary, and is currently the principal accessibility lead for Service New South Wales, which is the New South Wales state agency responsible for delivering all government services to residents in New South Wales. Next speaker is Dr. Narita Narasimhan, who's coming to us from India. Again, long-time advocate and supporter of access to greater inclusion of information and communications technology. Namita is currently the Senior Fellow and Project Lead for G3ICT, which is an international organization auspiced by the United Nations to promote greater access to communications technology for people with disabilities. And we also have Vashka Banerjee, who's coming to us from Bangladesh and giving the Bangladesh experience. Again, a long-time advocate promoting the rights of people with disability and accessing communications. Vashka is the national consultant with the Aspire to Innovate organization in Bangladesh, and also representatives for G3ICT. Better like that? Okay. Just a little bit about the format today. We'll have each of the speakers will present for about 7 minutes. And then at the end of that, we will open for discussion from the audience. Gunilla will be monitoring the online audience, and so if you have a comment or would like to ask a question or have something to say, please raise your virtual hand or wave at the screen, or alternatively you can put your question into the chat on Zoom. We will also have people here in the room for the in-person audience. If you'd like to ask a question or have a comment, please raise your hand. We've got a roving mic which will come to you. So just a little background on this. The importance of this, I think that we're all sort of across how important access to information communications technology is becoming for everyday life. For most of us, with government services also increasingly becoming delivered over online services and digitally. It's important that all of citizens in all countries have access to that if they're going to be brought along in this digital economy. So it's a very important topic, and I think be really interesting discussion and hear what's happening across various geographical jurisdictions and hear from the expertise and understandings from our panelists. So I guess without much more on that, I think we'll get into the discussion, and I'd like to pass over to you, Bree, to talk to us from your perspective. Thank you.
Look, thanks, Wayne. Thanks so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. It's not It's worth checking, right? So I'm just going to quickly share my screen with my slides. Hopefully you can see those now. Yeah, can you see my slides now?
I'd say yes. Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Hello. Yeah, my name's Bree Norton. I'm the co-chair for AussieWay.org. It's a not-for-profit for digital accessibility professionals. I have worked as freelance contractor across lots of government departments and also as a public servant in Australia, especially at the federal level. I've also been an accessibility and inclusivity lead for the federal level at the Digital Transformation Agency, where I first started this work around accessible ICT procurement. And then also for Accessible New South Wales, which is a new project run by the New South Wales government. And hopefully Greg will be able to join us because I worked quite closely with him. I have put some links on my slides. If you cannot access them through the slide deck, I'm happy to put them in the chat while other speakers are on. So we actually, AussieWay is a digital accessibility professionalization. We're actually working on projects around procurement, particularly, and which I'll get to in a moment, and also other projects around embedding accessibility earlier, upskilling accessibility SMEs, and a few other projects in that space. We are very much a not-for-profit for people with lived experience. We love to have them as members and enjoy their co-facilitation that they help develop our projects with. So I really appreciate that. Just trying to see if my slides will move. I'm also going to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm meeting in Canberra here, and pay respects to the elders of the Ngunnawal Nation, both past and present. And I extend this respect to all Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander peoples in attendance today. And I welcome, if you'd like to share in the chat where you're meeting from today. It'd be nice to know the kind of range of people and where you're joining us from. So just a little bit of background in what's happening in Australia in this space. A couple of year or so ago, a couple of years ago, the Zero Project, there was a project by the South Australian government. They developed an online toolkit, and it won at the Zero Project. And it really highlighted the need for a lot of accessibility advice and guidance. It's a wonderful toolkit. I recommend having a look at that. But there was a big gap that was identified in that toolkit, and that was around accessible ICT procurement. What we did is we talked to the Zero Project and presented the idea of maybe how we would develop some procurement processes and guidance to be added to the toolkit. And we started to reach out and form a subcommittee for AussieWay from a variety of different areas. Specifically the Australian Network on Disability, who had started an accessible ICT task force at a higher level around the business and the procurement space. And we as accessibility professionals supported that as a subcommittee, trying to find some idea of guidance that could be consistent across anyone that would work in a procurement space. So accessibility SMEs could be trained up into how they would provide that guidance. That work has involved not only the New South Wales government now, but also South Australian government. I've had recently calls with Victorian government and the Queensland government here in Australia. So there's quite a wide selection of people already doing some similar things, and we're just bringing them all together so that it's not siloed, and we can actually work together on some outputs for this. So one of the things we started with in this project was we did some empathy mapping. We actually workshopped online using an accessible, well, not completely accessible, but it's not too bad, a tool called Easy Retro, to start understanding what people's interest is and how they actually see the challenges and the opportunities for accessible ICT procurement. We ran quite a few sessions with procurement officers, with project officers, with accessibility SMEs, but also with end users, people who use vendor products and services. And we started to get a bit of a picture, and we developed some user stories on what their pain points are and what they'd like to see change. The analysis came up with these kind of findings. So there was a very high interest and appetite for what we're creating from the various user groups. There needs to be more guidelines and resources to address different levels of accessibility readiness, specifically in the checking of large vendors and the support of small, medium vendors. Accessibility procurement, that we have the standards, everything is in place, it's legislated, but it's not enforced. So there's no one doing any checking. And there's no mandate from organisational leaders to purchase accessible ICT products. Well, that's very limited. We're actually learning that there are some things happening in that space, which I'll get to in a moment. Vendors say their products are accessible, but this is rarely checked. And difficulties getting vendors to engage in this process. Even in our empathy mapping, we had one vendor attend. So the interest in them understanding why their products need to be accessible was not well known. So what's come out of this is that we've been meeting now every couple of weeks for a year. There's a subcommittee of accessibility SMEs across private sector and government. We've developed a journey map of what people's processes are and how they support their procurement and project teams internally. And that's given us an idea of where there's some consistent advice, where the standards are helping, where there's some checks. But we also highlighted some gaps. One of the gaps that we've really highlighted is that there's nowhere to really find out if a product or a service is accessible. So we've developed an approach based on any public knowledge around whether there's an accessibility statement, an ACR or a VPAT, to actually give a product a score. And we are working on this project as part of aussieway.org to put this on our website so that pre any kind of tender approach, just some interest in what's that product, how accessible is it, you'd be able to go to this page or this site and be able to go and assess the accessibility of that product. We want to work with vendors and on their products and their roadmaps for how they're going to improve. So it will be a very transparent and open process for us to share that product list and how we're doing the scoring. But also we're considering an approach where we actually put in a feedback form for people with disability who have issues with products they use, and using aussieway.org as a advocacy support to then provide a central source to assist with vendor support. So how can they build into their roadmap improvements for accessibility? So that's pretty much all of it from me. But if you'd like to be involved in our project, if you'd like to join AussieWay, just go to aussieway.org. A lot of it's on the website. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about how our projects are working, we've got some updates on our blog. And please subscribe to our newsletter to find out about the future work that AussieWay is doing in this space. We are very keen to actually develop specific training for accessibility SMEs to support their procurement and project colleagues. Because we understand it's a little bit like cyber. You don't expect the procurement officer to understand all the accessibility needs for the procurement checks that need to happen. What you probably just need to do is just to reach out to a subject matter expert who can help you. That's pretty much it from me, Wayne. That's a bit of a background in a few minutes, and I'm happy to take any questions. I think you're mute, Wayne, if you're talking. Oh, yeah, yep, you're right now.
It's good? Okay, yeah, I think there'll be a lot of questions and comments. So some interesting things that you mentioned, the idea that in Australia we have, the standards and in place, but there's no checking of implementation or if they're being used appropriately. And really fascinating to hear about the Aussie way, essentially a database of what's accessible and what's not, because I think for many in the procurement space, this is a big learning curve of bringing procurement officers up to speed on what's accessible and how do you test that. So a really interesting idea there. Thanks. So now, Greg, are you online? No? Okay, so Greg hasn't joined us yet. So Namita, we'll go directly to you if that's okay. If you'd like to share your experience from the Indian perspective. Thank you. Nibrita, are you online?
Audio now on. Yeah, hi, apologies.
Thank you.
Record menu button. Share screen. Close tab, close tab, close. Security. Can you hear me? Start my mute. Current. Start my video. Alt plus V space. Video now start.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, okay. Hello everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm here to just quickly give a perspective on what is happening in India with respect to accessible procurement. We have a huge constituency of persons with disabilities and a lot of technology usage, over 1.1 billion mobile users, and as of a year ago. And in 2016, we passed the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act. And that act mandates that all services should be accessible for persons with disabilities. It talks about reasonable accommodation, universal design. And Section 40 says that government has to publish and notify standards with respect to accessibility in the area of ICT, transportation, and physical infrastructure. Section 42 requires government to make electronic content, all content, electronic media, and consumer goods accessible. And what is really important is that Indian law is mandatory for both the public and private sector. So Section 46 says that all standards which are published under the rules of this act are binding, are mandatory for both the public and private sector. So following this, the government initiated a process to set up a committee which would look at, study what standards and laws and policies are there globally. And this committee was a multi-stakeholder committee with people from the industry, a lot of government agencies, and more importantly, lots of persons with disabilities and organizations of persons with disabilities. It was decided that this job would be given to CDAG, Center for Development of Advanced Computing. It was an agency under the Government of India, Ministry of Electronic and IT, and a committee was set up in the Bureau of Indian Standards to look to develop the standard. So the first thing, I think it was decided that there was wide stakeholder consultation, and it was decided that we would adopt the EN 301549. But the government was also keen that it has to be done ASAP, and there was a lot of discussion going on, and it was finally decided that let's publish the standard in two parts. And the first part would be accessibility requirements, and that could be done, without much discussion, as soon as possible. So the first part one on accessibility requirements of Indian Standard IS 17802 was published in December 2021. And after a lot of discussion, the part 2 on determinants of conformance was published in May 2022. There was a lot of consultation with a lot of experts around the country. It was COVID time, so we had so many online discussions and online meetings, and the inputs received from different experts were incorporated and presented. So finally, we had both these parts of the standard notified, Indian Standard 17802. And earlier this year, the government has also amended the rules of the RPD Act, section Rule 15, to say to specifically bring in the name of the standard into the law, and says that everybody should conform to IS 17802. And so this is more or less the EN standard as is, with some slight additions or modifications in the notes, and that is primarily with respect to requirements of Indian languages. We have 22 official languages with different scripts, and also references to any Indian standards like those notified by the Ministry of Information Broadcasting or the guidelines for Indian government websites. And a lot of agencies were involved in this, like Technology Development for Indian Languages, the Broadcasting Ministry, and so on. So I think these references and notes, some notes here and there, were the only modifications. Otherwise, this is pretty much EN as is. And I think that's where we are, and we need to kind of gear up and see how we get an implementation underway. So that's where we are in India. I'm done. I'm happy to answer more questions, I guess, later on.
Sure. Thanks so much, Namita. That was really interesting. I mean, one of the key things that I think is often left out of this is the importance of having people with disability at the table. When you were talking about the development of the committee and how that was a significant part of the composition of the committee, it really speaks to that, the commitment to get it right. So very interested to hear that. Thanks. We'll go now to Vashka. Vashka, if you'd like to give us the perspective from Bangladesh. And just if Greg Alchin hasn't joined, Bree has said that she can actually speak to Greg's slide. So if Greg hasn't come online by the time you finish, Vashka, we'll ask Bree to step in and speak to Greg's slides. Thanks.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. And you can stop me anytime if I speak a lot, okay? Respected moderators, panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from Bangladesh. We are now in I think around 5:20 or 30 a.m. now in my country. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm really pleased to see all of my known people here, including Gunala and other panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the inclusive and barrier-free society, barrier-free world, etc. In Bangladesh, from 2009 to 2021, there was a decade dedicated to transformation of digital Bangladesh. And almost all the service which are possible are transformed into a digital service. We have around 3,000 websites in our national portal with 52,000 offices are connected. Almost 2,000 plus e-services are now through My Governor. It's called My Governor apps. And almost 350 digital services are provided through Union Digital Center. And there is many other initiative has taken, such as e-learning platform. Almost 300 plus e-learning courses in Bangla language are available for citizens. And there is a skill portal, is called Nice Portals. So there's many digital services are available. During this decade, we have realized that there is not a single digital service which are accessible for people with disabilities. That's really a biggest discrimination has made, as our government has a 3 commitment through their political, legal, and global level commitments. One is current government has a manifesto, political manifesto, and they have talked about the disability inclusion and accessibility. The second is the legal commitment. Government has adopted a Persons with Disability Rights and Protection Act 2013, and there is a separate section on digital accessibility. And also they have developed adopted act is called Neurodevelopment Trust Act to ensure more vulnerable groups such as autism and neurodevelopment disability, intellectual disability, etc. And very importantly, Bangladesh was the first 20 country who have ratified the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Bangladesh has ratified, as you know, there is a accessibility is one of the significant part, Article 9, Article 21, many more. And also recently Bangladesh provide exception on the Marrakesh BIPTT, that is another international treaty by the WIPO for ensuring accessibility. Based on these 3 commitments, political, legal, and international commitment, Bangladesh government has realized we need to ensure the inclusion and accessibility for digital technology. Hence, they have adopted National Web and Digital Service Accessibility Guideline in 2022, and also taken initiative to ensure that all the procurement process of digital technology must be ensure a section for accessibility. And they have included this guideline in the procurement process. Now, no digital product can be procured without ensuring accessibility. Hence, we are seeing rapidly the situation is changing. Now, people with disabilities are able to purchase their train ticket. They're able to apply for their disability certification. Almost 2.9 million people with disabilities are getting disability allowance from their mobile phone, and they can apply from anywhere in the country through online system. And the people who are low literate or don't have the technology, they can go to the Union Digital Center. There is an entrepreneur who can support them for any applications, passport, birth registrations, whatever digital services are available. So that means the people who don't have the connectivity, who don't have the device, who don't know how to use them, they can go to the Union Digital Center and they can take the assistance from the entrepreneur of the Union Digital Center. This is a remarkable change we are making. As Bangladesh government has announced a smart Bangladesh, and a smart Bangladesh has a 4 pillar. One is a smart government, a smart economy, a smart society, a smart citizen. And one of the most important motto of this smart Bangladesh is zero digital divide. Bangladesh government are going to launch Equality Center in UNGA in 2023 in September. And one of the most significant part of this Equality Center is to ensure equality for all, including people with disabilities. And I think I have taken lots of time, even though I want to say more, but a few things I would like to add here. We are in a beginning stage of ensuring accessibility and inclusion in digital space. We need the international cooperation like country like Australia, Japan, other country. I am really inviting you, including all the international organizations who have the knowledge and expertise on inclusion and accessibility. Please collaborate with us. I'm calling my neighboring country like India. You can come up to support us. Lastly, I can tell you, with my leadership, one national problem has solved, that is the reading problem. Now, students with disabilities are getting accessible books, grade 1 to grade 10 in the beginning of the educational year. I can give you many updates. I'd like to end here by noting one point. IGF, APrIGF, all the internet governance, regional and international forums, we want to see more participation of people with disabilities, which are missing. Person like us are not able to go there as there is no resource for us. So this is really creating a discrimination. And I believe in future, we will see many faces from the persons disability community in such these types of international, regional, and local IGF and issues. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vashka. That was really interesting. I think a lot of us could learn from your experience in Bangladesh. It sounds like you're really moving forward in great bounds to make sure that everybody's included, and particularly with that Smart Bangladesh project. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to think that, the Smart Citizen includes Bangladeshi with disability. So really grateful to hear that. Thank you. Is Greg online? Has he joined us? Okay. Bree, Canela told me that you've offered to speak to Greg's slides. Are you happy to do that now?
Yeah, definitely. That's fine.
Okay. Thanks for that.
I'm just going to share my screen again. There's some interesting updates that's happening in the New South Wales government, and Greg has shared it a couple of times through our Aussie Way sub-procurement committee. So I'm not the expert, Greg is, but I'll do my best to share what's happening in that space. And it's just so wonderful to hear about what's happening in India and Bangladesh too. Hopefully we can pool our resources and work on some of these projects together. I've reached out to so that we can connect a little bit more and invite you, maybe Vashka and Namrita, to one of our procurement meetings. But yes, I'm just going to share a little bit about what's happening in New South Wales government. I was there. Sorry, was there someone there? No.
Yeah, sorry, it's me.
Oh, Greg, you're here. Yay.
Yeah.
Go for it, Greg. I'll
All
go
right,
on
I
mute.
thought we were starting at 10. My apologies.
All
Greg,
right.
All right.
Greg, it's Wayne. Thanks for coming online. The other panelists have already spoken. Bree had kindly offered to just briefly speak to your slides, but I think now that you're here in person, you could probably do that yourself. So the floor is open to you. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Bree. So, look, the biggest thing for us is looking at what is a practical approach to how we achieve this. And of course, it has to be standards-based approach. So, of course, the ASCN 301-549, which is the accessibility requirements, which we know India, of course, comes from Europe, but India's adopted it, Canada, Australia has all adopted that, and it's absolutely huge in what we're trying to do in that space. But it's not just that standard, because whilst that looks at what we build and buy, it's also leveraging in other standards, such as AS 3071, which is also an ISO standard on the ICT Code of Practice, also 3100, which is risk management, but also compliance management. We need to have all of those standards together, because that means what we're going to do means that we can do this in a consistent way. And if it's standards-based, then we can not only start it in one agency, but then we can start to replicate it across all of our agencies. And it means that we're also aligning our practices to that consistent international approach. So it's because most of our standards here in Australia are also based on those ISO standards. Now, what does it mean in practical terms for us? I think the best analogy on this is to think about buying a car. Why? In Australia, we have the car safety standards, and I know a lot of other countries also have car safety standards. So we have those a 5-star safety rating. In other words, we make a decision when we're procuring about what are the standards that we're going to accept. So in 301-549, there is that functional performance statement within section 4. So what do? Yes, I'm going to buy a product that everybody can use regardless of their cognitive, sensory, or physical abilities. That's the performance I want the product to buy. I'm not going to accept a product that doesn't do that. It's the same as I'm not going to buy a product that doesn't have cybersecurity in it. I'm not going to buy a car that only has 3 wheels and half the nuts off it. Now, once we know what that performance standard is, and that's the beauty of 301, whether it's a website, a mobile app, an interactive kiosk, the whole lot. How do we do it in practical terms? Well, we look at the relevant accessibility requirements within that standard. So, of course, in a website or a mobile app, it's going to be essentially the current WCAG requirements. The other thing that we do that's slightly differently to the standard is that we're starting a process of co-designing and co-identifying solutions with customers. So we're currently in New South Wales developing a workplace passport for staff with disabilities and staff with other needs. And that's a whole co-design process. Yes, we know what the performance is. We know the accessibility requirements, but we're now co-designing that solution. We're also designing a co-design toolkit on that one so that we can replicate that across government. Now, within there, we're building and buying to those requirements. Now, it's a very simple thing. When we're buying, did we say to the vendors, what did I need? Proof. I need proof that your product meets this. So yes, in a lot of cases, we'll ask for a voluntary product accessibility template document. Most of us will look at those documents, and particularly procurement teams, and their eyes will glaze over. So what's the multiple forms of evidence that you ask for, the correlating evidence? So are you now asking for? Show me where it is in your help files. Show me where it's in your user manual there. If it's not in there, then I'm a bit worried about what you've written in your VPAT. Also, when I'm down to my final 3, show me proof of life. Show me how the product works on a standard device, whether it's an iPad, a Mac, a phone, a PC, laptop, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Show me in practical terms proof of life. If it can't work with the inbuilt accessibility features on those devices, whatever you've written on your VPAT isn't consistent. And for product teams where we're saying, okay, if you've co-designed, what are you doing here? Hopefully you've got staff members with disabilities on that procurement panel, because they will tell you whether it does or doesn't work as well. Now, as if you have told suppliers up front, here's the evidence that I want, and you're clear about those multiple forms of evidence, then it allows you to test and evaluate against that. Now, part of that in practical terms is, hey, if it doesn't reach WCAG level A, for instance, I'm not even going to consider looking at the product because it has to meet minimum level A. I would prefer double A or triple A, but to even get a look in, it has to reach double A. And it's going through that process. And there are simple things as Bri and I know through the wonderful work of Andrew Norman, where we look at, do a quick count up of how many meets the requirements in the VPAT document. That'll help in that process as well, but allows you to make objective decisions about a go and a no-go about whether you make that procurement. Now, the final stinger is this. We know because in practical terms, procurement guidelines and standards such as 301 and Section 508 in the US have been around for longer than what we've adopted them here in Australia. A lot of major products will meet those requirements. Some small to medium enterprises won't, and their eyes will glaze over and ask, what are we asking for? What I do there is I look at it as a progress payment with a house. So if we've had to select a product in the end that doesn't meet all of our requirements because it's the best of what's available within that spot, not perfect, we go, well, in the contract, when we were writing it up at the start, we said, if those products do not meet all of the standards, then we don't give all the money. It's like a progress payment in the house. If you built the frame, we'll pay you for the frame. If you put the roof on, we'll pay you for the roof. And so it's a bit of a carrot and stick. Now, one of the things in government is they don't realise that they can do that. And so it's about putting mandatory requirements in that procurement process, because there's no, it's going to come out in the next version. They're going, yeah, well, when's the next version? Oh, we're not sure. And I just go, no. It doesn't work like that. And so finally, I think the other thing that we do in that process is that we collect metrics on there. And that's what we've started, because we've undertaken an audit of our services here in Service New South Wales, is then looking at that whole process. How do you collect metrics on what you're doing in that procurement space, or in the build space? Because if you haven't got metrics, how are you measuring change and improvement? And that's the approach that we're doing. So yes, there is still a need for a national and a state digital accessibility policy, but also what we're doing is going, what can we do now? And there's some of the things that we're doing here in New South Wales. Wayne, back to you.
Thanks, Greg. That was really good. I mean, we've had some earlier comments about, the policies and things, but it was really good to hear about the practical steps of actually, implementing those policies and getting them to be working, on the ground. So thank you for that contribution. And we're going to go now just to open the floor for questions and comments. And I think Ganella has somebody who's a participant online from Japan who has some things that they would like to speak to. No?
Thank you, Wayne. This is Gonala here. Yes, I would like to introduce Professor Hajime Yamada, who came to Australia in the year 2000 or so, and spoke about public procurement and IT accessibility criteria. And at the time I thought, well, this is something that we need to do more of in Australia. And that's where my journey came with this particular area. So I'm really delighted, and Wayne and I are very pleased to have Professor Hajime Yamada coming in from Japan, explaining the particular situation in Japan. So over to you, Professor.
Well, yes, hello. My name is Hajime Yamada. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to know what is going on in Australia, India, and Bangladesh. So I'd like to briefly explain what is going on in Japan. Unfortunately, there is no legislation or regulation in Japan that mandates ICT accessibility in procurement. Even in public procurement, the decision of purchase accessible product was left to the intention of the public body. However, recently, two agencies established a policy measure to pursue ICT accessibility. The Digital Agency has worked with Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications to formulate procurement guidelines that request government agencies to conform accessibility of procuring system. The guidelines are ineffective now. A government agency seeking to procure information systems asks bidders to submit a document regarding accessibility. Bidders will state in the document how they meet national standard of information accessibility. The government agency will refer to this document when determining successful bidders. The mechanism is a first step towards mandatory public procurement. And I and my colleagues will continue to work with the Japanese government to move the procurement system forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it's good to hear that things are moving forward. And we all know that these type of mechanisms take too much time, but that's where we're at.
Ganella, I don't think we can hear you very well.
Yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate the insights that you've provided from Japan. And we know that these type of mechanisms take time. And we wish they didn't take so much time, but we are all working on that in different ways. So thank you very much, Professor Yamada. And over to you, Wayne.
Thanks, everybody. Unfortunately, we're very close to time. I guess we could have gone a lot longer with this session, but just it's time to wrap up. But I just wanted to thank everybody, all the participants and the speakers. Thank you so much for your contributions. I think what we've discovered is that there's a lot of really good work going on across the various jurisdictions that have been represented today. And, you know, this has been a good starting point for us to all connect and collaborate and support the work that's happening across the Asia Pacific in this area, which is so important to make sure that, you know, all of our respective citizens and have access to the appropriate, accessible information and communications technologies that we need in this ever-increasing digital economy and society that we all live in. So sorry we've run out of time, but thank you all again so much for your participation today.
Audio now unmuted alert. Audio start my video. Alt space. Video now start.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all. Very nice to have you.
Space. Video now stopped alert. Start my video. Alt. Mute. Mute. Left space. Mute. The host muted you.
left of meeting alert.
Emo
Normal
appreciation.
font going to meeting alert. Actually, not an has left the meeting alert. The caption has left the meeting alert. APrIGF job has left the meeting. End meeting release meeting.
Testing, testing. Hi, Anaya, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you
Anaya?
hear me? Can you hear me?
Wait, come on. Anaya, can you try to speak? Can we hear Anaya? We're trying to
Yeah.
input your audio. Just a second. Hi, Namra. Oh no, it's just a tag checking. I'm so sorry.
Can you guys
just doing some tag check?
can you guys hear me fine?
So Anaya and Namra, it's the moderator and speaker. Yes, sir. Anaya, would you try to speak few sentences?
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Oh wait, your audio is not being heard here. Let's check. What happened? Oh. Okay. It's okay. Anaya, do you have some microphone input or something else? Let's try if you have some device, because I don't think we see the
I'll try to
audio.
get my earphones. Give me a moment, please.
I think our speaker is not being heard online. Namra, do you want to try here? We can see your video. So actually the same case for Anaya too. We can see your video. Anaya, we can see your video too, Namra. And would you be able to speak few words so that we can test whether your audio works?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me? Hello? No? Okay.
Can you hear
Connie,
me now?
can you hear me?
Yes, cool. We hear you now, Anaya. What about Namra? Can you try again? Can you try?
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, clearly.
Hello?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
Connie, do you want to tag check with your audio and video as well?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Can you speak few words? It's a bit.
Hi, can you hear me?
Softly. Would you mind put your mic a bit closer to your?
It's can't get any closer.
Okay, now it's much better. Thank you very much.
Okay, good.
Could we also do the same for Aris and Pavel?
Yes. Wow. Aris. Hi, Aris. Shada, do you want to try that mic?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ananya, can you hear me? If you can you please show me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, great. Thank you.
So, Aris and let me check.
Yeah, hello.
Hi. Oh, cool.
Yeah, am I being heard clearly?
It's a bit shaky, your audio. Would you try speaking few more words so that we could, like get a sense of how audio is connected from your side?
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, this is Iris for audio check.
It's getting better.
Okay, so I just.
Yeah, perhaps it's internet or like I'm not sure if you're using a mic.
Yes, I'm using a microphone. Yes.
Okay, that should be better then. Thank you.
Again, check. Audio check. This is Iris.
Yes, it's clear. It's clear now. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
It's Pavel here too. I'm checking.
I'm here. Good morning.
Oh, cool. Pavel, okay. I think your audio is clear. Do you guys, Pavel and Iris, do you want to try with your video as well?
Good morning. Can you see me?
Yeah,
Yes.
good morning.
Yeah. Oh, cool. We see you both, Iris and Pavel. Yeah. Okay, I think.
Like I'm speaking. Yeah. Okay. You don't have to put the slides up here. Okay. Great. Can we start? Okay. I think Connie is starting, so online.
Yes, I would like to start, but then can I have permission to share my slides?
Yeah.
Because currently, participant screen sharing is disabled on my end.
Yeah, hello. Hi, Connie. You can start sharing your slides now. Yes,
Yep,
we can see you on
perfect.
screen.
Thank you, Shraddha.
You're welcome.
Yep, and okay, so a very good morning to everyone, both on site in Australia and online. Welcome to our session on co-creating digital future for children and intergenerational multi-stakeholder dialogue on children's data protection. In a world where digital technologies shape our lives, it's crucial to recognize that these technologies weren't initially designed with children in mind, and today, even before birth, children's data becomes part of the digital landscape, from ultrasound images to their online presence. This creates a lasting digital footprint for them, raising unique concerns for data privacy, security, and children's rights. And children's data holds a special place in this digital era. Unlike adults, children might not fully grasp the implications and safeguards around their personal information. They lack the ability to advocate for themselves due to their age and understanding. So therefore, our workshop delves into a very critical question, which is how can we make children active participants in shaping data governance policies? By incorporating their evolving abilities, real-world experiences, and perspectives, we aim to ensure fairer intergenerational policies that respect their rights. Framed under the theme of trust, our workshop highlights the importance of safeguarding children's data in a digital landscape. We aim to shed light on the unequal power dynamics between data collecting entities and vulnerable children, exposing potential risk of exploitation and privacy breaches. And beyond typical online safety concerns, we also explored the need for transparency and accountability in handling children's personal data. And so our speakers today will examine existing children data governance policies in the Asia-Pacific region, pinpoint gaps, and delve into technical aspects of data usage, draw from real-life instances to illustrate the challenges, and also by referencing international children's rights principles and conventions, we will also discuss ways to prioritize children's trust and interests in the digital realm. So after this session introduction, it's time to introduce myself. My name is Connie, and I will be your session moderator today. I also have Strata on site in Australia to assist with any questions that the audience in room P3 or online may have. And we are both Generation Connect Youth Envoys under the United Nations International Telecommunication Union. And so moving on to speakers, we first have Ananya Singh. She is a digital safety expert specializing in protecting children and youth. Ananya has led and moderated sessions on digital harms and youth voices in digital development for the USAID Digital Youth Council. She has also moderated events on the impacts of digital harms on children's mental health, as well as led a winning campaign against TikTok, securing 158,000 signatures in 1 month, and also receiving the Diana Award for humanitarianism. She joined Internet Governance events as an ICANN fellow and panelist. So as an experienced youth advisor and advocate for children's rights, she is a great speaker to talk about youth voices in digital development and applicable international children's rights principles, standards, and conventions. We then have Iris Ignacio, a seasoned speaker who excels in internet governance, digital literacy, and youth advocacy. He has fostered college and university student involvement in Asia-Pacific internet governance events. He also promotes boosting digital literacy in underdeveloped schools through training and donations, all while advocating for children's involvement in creating digital identities and data governance. He has also held various roles in the Internet Society Philippines chapter and ICANN, and was an APrIGF attendee and IGF ambassador in 2017. So he's our valuable workshop speaker on digital literacy and youth advocacy, especially in terms of bringing to the table academic literature or case studies on child data use and exploitation in the Asia-Pacific region. Our third speaker is Namra Nasir, who is an expert in policy research and advocacy, with a focus on politics and technology. She is a skilled advocate for Pakistan's foreign and domestic policy and will be speaking in the workshop on data governance policies for children's rights. Namra's policymaking and stakeholder engagement will provide insights for children's data governance. And with policy research and advocacy expertise, community engagement, and conference moderation abilities, she's a great all-rounded speaker today with more focus on existing policies and gaps in child data governance in the Asia-Pacific region. And last but not least, we have Pavel Farhan, who is an expert in internet governance and focuses on ICT for diversity and inclusive internet access. He has been involved in the field since 2019 and has received numerous conference fellowships. With an ICT master's degree from AIT, Pavel is a credible speaker who advocates for an inclusive internet and emphasizes youth involvement in data governance policies, alongside being well suited to discuss children's data governance and involving children in policy development due to his experience in internet governance, advocacy for inclusive internet access, as well as work with youth organizations. And today he will be shining light onto the technical aspects of child data capture, use, and how to store or process it safely. And now we will move on to the panel session. And our first question is directed towards Ananya. So Ananya, what is the difference between general data protection and children's data protection? And also, why does children's data protection need our special attention? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Connie, for that question. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all those who are joining us from Australia and those who are joining us from the rest of the world virtually. And to answer your questions, I think even before children are born now, their data finds its way to the world, from ultrasound images to baby monitors, from social media to search engines, from email address to IP address. human beings may come and go, but their digital footprint is here to stay. Although massive amounts of data are increasingly being collected about everyone, children's data needs our special attention. The main difference between general data protection and children's data protection is that children may be less aware of the risks, consequences, and safeguards concerned and their rights in relation to the processing of their personal data. They cannot effectively advance and advocate on their own behalf. They are less suited than adults to provide meaningful consent for the collection and usage of their data. And let's be honest here, technology companies are not exactly known for explaining their terms and conditions of data collection and data usage in an uncomplicated, jargon-free, child-friendly language, or even in local languages. So the extent power imbalance between the institutions that process their data and children makes children even more vulnerable. And as we all know, children are often also the pioneers in exploring and experimenting with new digital devices or new online services and contents. They're, in fact, the canary in the coal mine for wider society. So they're more likely to encounter the risks before many adults even become aware that such a risk exists or are able to develop strategies to mitigate such risks. Since children now act on digital platforms that both record everything and own the resulting data traces, it becomes critical to assess and understand the present and future risks such platforms pose to children's agency, well-being, and privacy. Hence, children need to be afforded agency and ability to define who they are for themselves without having their future pathways predetermined or their learning styles unduly narrowed down by algorithms. Given that children's rights are also afforded extra protection under international human rights law and conventions such as the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the very fact that children's data has the potential to support the research, development, and provisions of services for child development, a child-centered data governance structure is indeed the need of the hour. In fact, UNICEF's 2021 publication called The Case for Better Governance of Children's Data, a manifesto, states that preventing children from engaging in the online world can curtail their freedoms, while preventing use of their data for development of services may limit opportunities. Now, let's look at a couple of challenges on our road to creating a child-centered data governance structure. First and foremost, while most research attention has been concentrated on teenagers, increasingly the very youngest of children are also becoming regular users of the internet. But the universal and often adult treatment of all users fails to respect children's evolving capacity, lumping children in overly broad categories such as under 13s, under 18s. Article 5 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child defines childhood as the period between 0 to 18 years of age, a time when attitudes, preferences, and identity are fluid and under formation. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child also explains the evolving capacity of the child by discussing how, as children grow and develop, they acquire enhanced competencies, need less direction, and have greater capacity to take responsibility for the decisions affecting their life. Now, secondly, Professor Sonia Livingstone from the London School of Economics also points out in one of her research papers that children's development can be very different based on their personal circumstances. For example, a 15-year-old from a lower social economic status home might have similar knowledge and digital literacy as that of an 11-year-old from a high socioeconomic status home. Now, thirdly, the current trend of over-reliance on parents for consent is also less than effective. For example, in a low digital literacy country, imposing the burden of determining the acceptability of a platform or application's data protection and privacy policies on parents who may not normally have the knowledge or time or capacity to review terms and conditions and such policies will only disappoint. Now, fourth, still not very remarkable obligations on businesses to design activities that protect children, create privacy notices that are easily understood by children, to conduct preemptive harms assessments, and to implement risk mitigation. Again, I'm not saying that nothing is being done, but not enough is being done. And fifth, there's also an ongoing discussion on what exactly a good age verification mechanism should look like. Because, a age verification process should not in itself lead to more collection of personal data. Now, as we can easily notice in all of these examples, none of our existing policy debates around children's data actually involves children. But if we refer to Articles 3 and 12 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, we can easily emphasize why children have the right to be heard in any processes related to their data and digital experiences and be involved in governance, decision and policy making and design of product wherever possible. Hence, it is time that we encourage children to actively participate in and contribute to data protection and online privacy policy. Multi-stakeholder, intergenerational, child-centered, child rights-based approach to data governance-related policies and regulations needs to be created now. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ananya, for the insightful answer. And since our time is a bit limited, we're going to move on to the next speaker. So my question will be directed towards Namra. So Namra, how do existing policies on child data governance vary among countries in the Asia-Pacific region?
First of all, thank you, Connie, for the great introduction. And to answer your question, I think when we look at the existing policies on child data governance in the AP region, there exist a lot of gaps. Like Ananya said, it's not that nothing has been done, but whatever is being done is, again, not enough. Asia Pacific as a region is a broad, big region with like diverse countries and different cultural values and all. And we see a set of like a patchwork of child data governance policies in the Asia Pacific region. So for some countries, there are very comprehensive laws within Asia Pacific, and the other countries have like basic regulations, and then there are some other countries that are actually moving towards better laws and restrictions and regulations and all of that. And I'll just give you a few examples from different countries to give you a broader landscape of what's really happening and how countries differ in their regulations overall. So for example, there's Singapore, and they have Personal Data Protection Act, which is a comprehensive child data protection law. It applies to all organizations and that collect or process data of individuals, including children. And the PDPA, this act requires organizations to obtain parental consent before collecting or processing personal data of children under the age of 13. Japan has Personal Information Protection Act, which was again amended in 2017 to specifically address the protection of children's protection data. And within this, stricter rules were introduced for obtaining parental consent when processing personal data of children under the age of 16. Organizations were mandated to secure explicit consent from a parent or guardian before collecting, using, or disclosing personal information of minors. And in addition, this act requires organizations to take reasonable steps to protect children's personal data from unauthorized access, use, or disclosure. We have an example of South Korea. They have a Network Act that governs the handling of personal information, including that of minors. And this law necessitates explicit consent, again, from a parent or a guardian for processing personal data of children under the age of 14. And in addition, this act requires organizations to provide clear and concise privacy notices to children and their parents as well. China has a great framework also. They have a cybersecurity law and personal information security specification that incorporates provisions for safeguarding children's personal data. There are platforms that are obliged to acquire parental consent before collecting and processing data of children under the age of 14. And additionally, platforms catering to minor must implement age-appropriate privacy settings. And this law also prohibits the use of children's personal data for targeted advertising. India has introduced the Personal Data Protection Bill in 2019, which proposed special provisions for children's personal data protection. And this bill sought additional safeguards when processing children's data and emphasized the importance of obtaining parental consent. It is also, the bill also proposed the creation of a Children's Data Protection Authority to kind of oversee protection of children's data. And they, in addition, they have the Information Technology Act, which is a general law of information technology in India that includes some provisions on child data protection. And this act kind of prohibits the publishing or transmitting of any information that is harmful to the interests of children. However, the law does not define what actually constitutes harmful information, and it is subjected to different interpretations. Again, Australia has a Privacy Act that encompasses principles that safeguards children's protection, personal information. The Office of the Australian Information Commissioner offers guidelines on handling children's data, emphasizing clear privacy notices and necessity of parental consent. And the OAIC, the Office of Australian Information Commissioner, also has a dedicated team that focuses on child privacy issues. I would like to also talk about my own country. Pakistan has Electronic Crimes Act, PICA, 2016, and this law prohibits a number of cyber crimes, including publishing or transmitting of child sexual abuse material, and the online grooming of children, and the unauthorized access to or disclosure of children's personal data. And they have a bill that is currently being debated in the Pakistani parliament also, which is Personal Data Protection Bill. And this will again go on to establish a comprehensive data protection law or like a framework like we see in other countries, to include provisions for the protection of children's data within it, and kind of set an age limit. But like when this list goes on, there are a number of other countries, and I'm pretty sure they have great laws and regulations in place. But there are certain trends that we can observe when we look into these countries and their laws and regulations. And one thing we see is that they have come up with comprehensive laws that are targeted at children. Some have actually initiated and created these laws, and the other countries have basically amended existing laws to include child data protection provisions, and some countries are in a process to do so. But the whole framework, and when you look at different countries throughout the region, it gives rise to very important questions, which were certainly highlighted by Nanya also. Number one, how are we differentiating in terms of laws when it comes to children of different age groups? Is there a distinction between, let's say, younger babies to toddlers to teenagers? There is currently no distinction, basically. There's just like an age limit, and it's like a blanket cover, and underneath all the laws are applicable in the same manner. And what that does is that kind of overlooks the nuances of different age groups. And also you have to keep in mind that legal age in different countries varies differently. And different countries also have different cultural values. So that is also important to understand. It's an important question when we talk about children data law protection. Second question is, how are we actually regulating parents or guardians? Every law that I just covered talks about the consent of parent or a guardian. But is there a law that is actually making these people accountable, or is there a way that they're regulating these people or these individuals also? And I don't think so. There are any sophisticated methods to look into that as of yet. I think it's very common practice nowadays that parents are uploading pictures of their babies, and these are very younger babies also, without their consent. And these kids do not understand the kind of digital footprint they are leaving, the kind of information that is being shared, obviously without their consent. They're just too young, but I don't think anybody's ready for that. That's a very responsibility of that. And third question is, we also observe that in the case of Asia Pacific, and I'm pretty sure in other regions also, there is not a regional overarching set of regulations or framework that is governing these countries in a more uniform way. So it's more like individual policies from country to country, and this gives space for certain there are certain lacunas that exist and they need to be addressed. One, it's around the clarity of the definition of a child. There is, again, lack of comprehensive laws. There is lack of enforcement. These laws exist, but how far are they being enforced and how's accountability made sure? That is a very important question or a space to look into. There is lack of transparency about how children's data is being collected and used, and my colleagues, Pavel and Aris, maybe will dive deeper into this. There is lack of accountability for organizations that probably they have this data and they are probably exercising in ways that are not legal, perhaps. But is there an accountability that for certain organizations or even individuals, if they have already misused, let's say before these laws were in practice? So how does that work? Again, international and regional cooperation is short on these. There is lack of child-specific regulations, very important to look into that space. And my second last point would be like taking into account the rapid evolution of technology, right? And how are we keeping up with data protection laws in general to regulate them and to keep the pace with the technological advancements? And for example, the use of facial recognition technology, artificial. So we need to think on these lines to make the future of our generation, safer and secure, cybersecurity wise. And my last point would be the cross-border data flows and the collection and use of children's data easily crosses international borders, regional borders, and all of that. And it makes it a lot difficult to kind of pinpoint how the children's data is being protected and how does jurisdiction play a role over here, because that's a very complicated issue.
Namra, I think you're frozen. We can't hear you here in the room. Connie, if you can confirm.
Yep, she's frozen on my end as well.
Okay, then
well,
maybe
I guess we can first move on to the next speaker. So I think Namra has already raised a lot of very insightful questions and also many different examples from other countries. So that was very nice. And now, due to time constraints, we'll move on to Pavel. So Pavel, what are the key technical challenges involved in safeguarding children's data and how can they be addressed effectively? Pavel, over to you.
Thank you, Connie. Is it all right if I can ask you to put up my slides? There's just one slide actually.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Namra, we lost you for a minute there.
Yeah. I was just wrapping up, and the last 2 points were about technological advances that we need to keep up with what's happening in the evolution of technology. And the last point is about regulating cross-border data flows. How is children data being regulated across borders and the jurisdiction question on that? So that would be from me for now, and we can look more into the recommendations part towards the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Namra. And we're currently waiting for Pavel to share his screen so that he can answer the next question.
Pavel, can you confirm if you're sending the PPT to the Secretariat or if you're sharing the screen yourself?
I've sent the PPT to the Secretariat in the Google Drive.
Okay.
But if it's not working, I can just share my own.
I think they can make you the co-host and you can share the screen on your end.
Sure.
Oh, you're already a co-host. Pavel, you can share the screen from your end if that's okay.
Sure. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yes, we can see it now. You can put it on presentation mode, please.
Just give me a second. Sorry, I just need to see my notes as well. But no worries. Let me just start because as Connie just asked me, there are a lot of key technical challenges in safeguarding children's data. And of course, as we delve into the realm of safeguarding children's data in the digital age, it becomes evident that we will face unique and intricate technical challenges when dealing with data concerning minors. There exists actually a profound responsibility to ensure their privacy, security, and overall well-being. And therefore, it is important to shed light on the multifaceted technical hurdles that arise when we collect, utilize, and store children's data. So additionally, as we navigate this terrain, it's crucial to explore viable strategies for effectively addressing these challenges. For example, how can consent mechanisms be tailored to suit different age groups? What role does age verification really play in ensuring that the right level of protection is applied? Moreover, in a landscape where data accuracy is paramount, what approaches can we adopt to validate and maintain the authenticity of children's data? So I have 10 points here. These are I believe, the key technical challenges in safeguarding children's data. I'm going to try and briefly go through each one of them without taking too much time. So the first one being, of course, the consent mechanisms for children. So obtaining informed consent from children is obviously very important because children might lack the cognitive development to fully understand the implications of the stuff they're sharing online or in terms of granting permission for data processing. Now, developing these age-appropriate consent mechanisms require user interfaces, languages, visual cues, and these all resonate with different age groups. And it involves creating and engaging and understanding formats that will also allow children to comprehend the consequences of their actions. A solution obviously would be to design more user-friendly and age-appropriate consent interfaces. And if you'd ask me, I would say like we can take the approach of utilizing visual cues or even simple languages, interactive elements that children find entertaining that cater to this different age groups. And we incorporate a gamification or storytelling to help children understand the concept of consent. Now, a lot of people, like before me, Namra and Ananya have talked a lot about age verification, and it's a very important topic because verifying a child's age online is essential for applying appropriate privacy protections. But of course, it's not always true, or the information regarding a child's age is obviously not always put online, or it's not put in an accurate manner because it's important to strike a balance between the accuracy and privacy. And that could be challenging. And methods such as requiring credit card details may be too invasive for minors because, nowadays children are always on their iPads or on the phones, and they like to play these games that require in-store in-store purchases. And therefore, this could be difficult because we need technical solutions involving digital age verification technologies or leveraging blockchain for secure yet private age verification. And this must be carefully designed to ensure compliance with the regulations while safeguarding children's rights. If you'd ask me, I would say we should obviously employ advanced technologies that use facial recognition or biometric indicators, but then again, that is putting too much of the children's information online. So right now, I don't have an answer to a proper approach regarding that. Number three, regarding the data accuracy and validation. So obviously children may provide incorrect or incomplete personal information due to the misunderstandings or lack of awareness. Ensuring data accuracy involves the validation checks, cross-referencing with trusted sources, and employing data cleansing techniques. However, these measures must be carried out without compromising a child's privacy right and without infringing upon their personal space. And therefore, I would suggest to implement validation checks during data entry to ensure accuracy. Cross-referencing data with trusted sources, such as the official records or, of course, parental information to validate the authenticity of provided data should be prioritized. Regarding the anonymization and pseudonymization, of course, protecting children's data while keeping their identities and maintaining the usefulness of data requires a sophisticated technique. Anonymization involves removing obviously personally identifiable information, and of course, pseudonymization replaces identifiable data with artificial identifiers. And implementing these methods without compromising data utility and accuracy can be quite challenging. And therefore, I would, of course, suggest that the approach we take is to use advanced algorithms to remove personally identifiable information while preserving the data utility. So we have to replace identifiable information with pseudonyms that cannot be easily linked to these children. In terms of the security of child-focused services, of course, designing a secure online platform for children involves considering their unique vulnerabilities. Technical challenges including like ensuring the robust authentication methods, encryption data at rest and in transit, and of course, implementing age-appropriate access control. And protecting children against cyber threats such as hacking, phishing, and unauthorized data access, which children probably still don't even understand properly. So it's important to use strong encryption for data at rest and in transit, and we must use authentications that children do understand and regularly update security measures to counter evolving cyber threats. Regarding the data breach and prevention, I'll try to go as fast as I can from here. We have to prevent data breaches involving children's data because it's critical. And organizations must understand this, that they have to employ robust security measures to conduct regular security audits and establish breach response plans to understand that any kind of problems should not affect the parents or the guardians of the children as well as the children themselves. And that's why it's important for these organizations to employ firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and of course, develop comprehensive breach response plans that include notifying affected parties like, hey, we may have compromised your data, and this is what you can do next to secure that it doesn't happen again, or how can we minimize the damage. Next, going onward to data minimization, collecting the minimum necessary data while ensuring the service functionality requires careful planning. So the technical solutions would obviously involve designing systems that only request the essential data and avoiding over collection. You know, we don't need too much data just for the sake of having it, and creating mechanisms that anonymize these children's data and delete it once it's no longer needed. And we need to find that balance between the functionality and the data minimizations, and that usually requires a very thoughtful approach. So I would say just collect the data that is necessary and nothing that's no longer required. Number 8, the user authentication. So ensuring that children are the ones that are accessing their data necessitates stronger user authentication methods. And this could be robust, but they could prevent unauthorized access. So implementing authentication processes that are appropriate for different age groups and comprehension levels is a technical challenge. I believe what we can do is we can combine factors like passwords, biometrics, and knowledge-based questions and offer, a more adaptive authentication based on age groups, because as Namra mentioned, we don't really know the different age groups except beyond whether they are legal to be on a website or not, usually mostly above the age of 13. So we need to adapt authentication based on age groups to match the children's cognitive abilities as well. Finally, the last two, so parental control and consent management. Of course, we have to provide parents and guardians with control over their children's data, because this requires implementing technical solutions, and of course, parents would, once parents understand what data they're putting out, they can also easily consent for their children's data across various platforms. And these challenges involve unified systems that allow parents to sort of review and modify their children's data whenever they want, and sharing preferences across different online services. Finally, to wrap up, the technological adaptations. So of course, as we move forward in a world where technology is constantly evolving, presenting ongoing challenges as well, and therefore we have to keep up with these challenges while maintaining the integrity and safety of children's data, and that continuously requires learning and adapting and investing to up-to-date security measures and best practices. And therefore, we need to stay informed and embrace this continuous learning and understand that protecting children's data is not an easy task. Addressing these challenges, of course, necessitates a multidisciplinary approach, and not just using technology, but using legal expertise, ethical considerations, of course, collaboration among multi-stakeholders, and a commitment to prioritizing the best interests of children in the digital realm. Back to you, Connie.
Thank you very much, Pavel, for the detailed explanations on the key technical challenges. And now over to Aris. Aris, you can start to share your screen. And within the Asia-Pacific region, what educational initiatives and awareness campaigns are needed to empower children, parents, and educators in understanding the importance of data protection and adopting responsible online behaviors? And also, how can governments and technology companies contribute to these efforts?
Thank you so much for that, Connie. This is Aris for the record. Before I start answering your question, because that's a really very important question that we need to address. Before I go into that and answering your question, I would just like to make a shout out to all of our local hubs in Baguio City and in Quezon City here in the Philippines. Hello. In answering the question that was given, actually, fostering awareness and education around data protection is really very, very critical to empower children, parents, and educators in adopting very responsible online behaviors. Actually, there are a lot of initiatives that we need to take into consideration, and there are a lot of strategies in which we can implement. First and foremost, we could have, a comprehensive curriculum integration. Governments should, as much as possible, collaborate with a lot of educational institutions out there who are the ones who are in, the first hand in which this specific information should be delivered. And the data protection and online safety topics should be integrated into the curricula. And this should also involve creating an age-appropriate content that teaches children about the risks associated with sharing personal information online and the importance of privacy, which leads us to creating a very robust and hopefully a good tracking of the digital literacy of students moving forward. And maybe, starting it with little children as early as maybe 5 or 6 years old. And as we all know, right now, the youth have been using technology as early as 2 years old. And I had a good experience with that with regards to my nephew. My nephew was able to use and browse the internet and watch movies and even videos on YouTube with ease without him being taught on how to use it. Number two, it's really very important. I've been saying about this particular instance since I spoke about this previously in Ethiopia. But there should be a parental guidance program. And, educational campaigns targeting parents are really, really essential because these initiatives can provide information on how to educate their children about online safety, set parental controls, and recognize signs of potential exploitation. You know what? It's really very, very important because even the parents are the ones who really, giving the information out there of their children. Yeah, I don't know if you have heard of the term sharenting, in which you are sharing very vital information of your children, even pictures for that matter. It's really it's really very scary. There's a there's a viral video that has been going around in which the pictures of a particular child was being collected, and it was it was created as an AI AI model in which what he should be looking at him, how Dashley looks like maybe 20 years from now. And it was shown in a movie theater and stuff like that. There's a viral video for that. And imagine if, people can collect those pictures and create something like, a different personality or a different person. How would that be moving forward? Next instance would be teacher training. Because, equipping educators with the knowledge and tools to teach online safety effectively is really vital. It's not only that they can teach online safety, but they need to teach online safety very, very effectively. Because at the end of the day, it's the teachers that is being, the teachers are the ones who's teaching it, and the students are the ones who's listening to the teachers because they know that the teachers can give them the information that they need to learn and to know how to go around with this. So workshop and training programs can enable teachers to instill responsible online behavior in students and address their particular concerns. Next, maybe an integration of interactive workshops and webinars. So interactive sessions that engage children, parents, and educators through maybe practical exercises, simulations, and even conducting some real life scenarios can effectively demonstrate the consequences of data misuse and even exploitation. Another thing would be digital literacy campaigns. This is not only true with schools and with parents, but also with everyone as well. Collaborative campaigns by governments and technology companies that promote digital literacy, very foundational digital literacy, teaching individuals on how to navigate online platforms responsibly, identify misinformation, and even protect their own personal data. Also, right now, if we're talking about the Asia-Pacific region, there should be as much as possible multilingual resources because we are a very diverse region, as we all know. And there are really different languages around the region, and creating educational materials in multiple languages would ensure wider reach and better comprehension to all of the people who are listening. I heard that Abel was mentioning earlier about gamification. And gamified learning is really, really very important because developing these technology companies, they will be developing educational games and applications that teach data protection concepts in an engaging manner can appeal to children and help them maybe retain some essential information regarding what they are going into. And my last point would be maybe awareness through social media and social channels. Governments, technology companies, NGOs, or even educational institutions can partner and run targeted media campaigns, leveraging social media, maybe even going towards tri-media, television, radio, to even reach the broader audience. So I think that I hope that answers the question. So back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Aris. And so now we'll move on to the Q&A session. And due to time constraints, we will be taking only 1 to 2 questions. So over to you, Shraddha. Are there any questions on site?
Thanks, Connie. It was a wonderful session. Now we have opened the floor for questions. So if there's any question that you want to ask, I would be happy to convey it. Also, there's one comment in the meanwhile that I wanted to make, something when Pavel was talking, I realized. So yesterday during one of the sessions, Mr. Shabir mentioned about how inclusion of people, nothing without us, nothing about us without us. And something when Pavel was talking about not including children, and Ananya was also mentioning it, I think that was a factor that can be included. And that sentence was very powerful when he told about it yesterday. So I think it resonated with me and I was reminded about it. Maristella, you have a question? Yes.
Hi everyone, Maristella for the record. So I would just like to ask that we've been talking about not having like a regional legislation or guidance for children's data protection in the Asia Pacific region. So would you think that's possible to have something like maybe like a GDPR but focused on children's privacy in the region? Or should it be localized? So what do you recommend or what do you think would be best for us to have? And that's it. Thank you.
That's a wonderful question. Marcella, would you like to direct that question to a particular speaker or is it to the entire panel? Okay, it's directed to the entire panel, Connie. You can take it away.
Thank you,
Okay,
Shraddha.
if I might join in. Thank you, Connie. I just want to chime in that I have a rather pessimistic answer for you, unfortunately. And I'm sure Namra will have better answers because she was focusing on the policies of the region. And as you might have noted, the Asia Pacific region is really vast and very, very diverse. So unlike EU, it will be slightly difficult for us to develop a regional policy for now. And since we also have other geographical, political constraints at the moment in the Asia Pacific region, that is a solution which might occur in the distant future, but not happening in the near future, at least in my opinion. But yes, we can have localized policies, and I would personally vouch for localized policies because, like I mentioned, it's better to actually have a tailored policy which caters to the different and very specific needs of the population in a country. For example, there are countries which have many different indigenous populations living within the territories. There are others which have many urban areas, others which have many rural areas, populations which are not primarily English speaking. Or you also have a country like India where there are people who speak too many different languages. So it's better if we let countries actually make policies, and we might actually have a nudge for those countries with a regional guiding document which can guide all these discussions over time. But I would love to see a regional approach in the distant future. I just don't see it right now. But if anybody else would like to chime in.
I'd like to add something.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So you asked whether we should have a regional cooperation mechanism or not, and I am a strong proponent of that. We should. Whether we can have it right now or not, it's a debate maybe we can have later. But I guess these conversations kind of set a very good starting point. And by having a regional framework is important to regulate a lot of, let's say, if not specific, then broader issues, and also the question of jurisdiction. And it also kind of binds everybody in like a collective action and brings a focus to this very important issue that is common to all these countries, whether how diverse they are. And about localized efforts, I guess they're already there, and they are improving, and that's a great thing. And hopefully they will be improved much more. And these regional frameworks, let's say for Asia Pacific, can complement these local policies. And these countries maybe can sit together and learn from each other also. So that would be my take on this.
Is there any other speaker who would like to add? Because we have one more question. Sorry.
Sorry. I just want to add something.
Yes.
We're talking about the regional framework here, but as we all know, as Ananya mentioned, there are different policies or different types of things that we need to consider. But there's one thing that I think that can be put into a regional framework, which is in terms of the awareness and education of students or the youth. Because in any country that you go into, it's the same problem altogether. So making them aware of such things on how to protect their own data and how to maybe look into some of the things that they need to reply to, on what to do with if there would be any instance of, example of phishing or something. I think that can be a good regulatory framework.
Yes.
Putting it into perspective, the awareness of putting education.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Aris. Maristella's question invoked a lot of contradictory and very different responses at a very range of by all the speakers. But one thing that I think Ananya said resonated with what the APrIGF was also trying to do over the course of the last few days here was highlight how the problems and the situations and the concerns of different countries in the same region are so diverse that we need to look at localized solutions while having a broader framework or broader principle that is regional. So I think Namra and Ananya along with Aris highlighted how that can come together in the most beautiful and collaborative manner. So we have one more question in the room, and yes, please.
Thank you. Maybe this I'm not sure, adds to your last comments. So yes, regionally, I also believe we need different responses, within our own locations, but regionally, some kind of standardization. Having worked in the high conflict separated parenting of the family court systems in Australia, there is a lot of subjectivity on what is the best interests of the child. And I'm wondering if there has been research or agreement within this use of what the term best interest or what some of the categories of best interest of the child are.
I think that question's directed to Ananya.
I would love to take it, but I was just wondering, I've been talking too much. I would just add
very valuable.
Comment.
Yeah.
Just one comment. I think that is again subjective because different countries, different approaches, even different parenting. Because, for example, my parents have a more liberal approach towards what my best interests are, but then I have had friends whose parents had a more traditional approach towards what their child's best interests are. So I think it's difficult to define best interests like that. And then if you even go beyond personal relations, you will have cultural norms. For example, the best interests which are lined up for a girl child is very different for that of a boy child. So there are gender norms. Then if you go to different countries, you will have country specific norms that some things which are considered to be in the best interest of a female child in that country will not be in the best interest of a female child in a different country. So I think, again, that's very subjective. I'm sorry, I don't have a very good answer for that. But yeah, that should actually invoke a deeper and much broader conversation on what exactly best interests of a child look like. But I would be very happy to hear from any of the other co-panelists on this.
If the other panelists have nothing to add, due to time constraints, I think we'll have to close the session now. So Thank you all so much for participating in this workshop, and a huge thank you to all the speakers for your insightful inputs. So we're happy to say that today's workshop has been completed successfully. And now we have some exciting news regarding the IGF in Japan this October, and we would love to see you there. And I'll pass the time to Ananya to introduce this. Ananya?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, Connie, can we go to the slides? So you must have heard that this year IGF
Ananya,
had
1 second. The slides are not on the screen yet. Give me 1 second. It's the first presentation. Yes, this one. Yeah, the slides are on now. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So this year's IGF was extremely competitive. 800 session proposals were received. We are very happy to inform you that 4 of our proposals have actually made it to IGF's final schedule. As you can see on the screen right now, we do have a session on digital health literacy, which is happening on the 10th of October at 13 hours. Connie, can we move to the next slide, please? We have another session on the same day, which is 10th of October, and it is actually called Lights, Camera, Deception, Sides of Deep Fake and Generative AI. This session is at 17:30 hours. On 11th of October, we have a session called Data Protection for Next Generation, Putting Children First at 11 Japanese Standard Time. So it's actually a more internationalized version of this workshop that you just attended. So if you love this workshop, we would love to see you there as well. And finally, we do have another workshop called Decolonize Digital Rights for a Globally Inclusive Future, which is happening at 17:30 Japanese Standard Time on the 11th of October. For more information, please scan the QR code. It will take you to a website where you can find all of our flyers, more information about these workshops. You can go to our session proposals and also find out who the speakers will be. So we are looking forward to welcoming you virtually or in person at IGF 2023. Thank you very much again for attending today's session. Over to you, Connie.
Thank you very much, Ananya. And I'm happy to say that today's session is ending. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is the close of the session. If you have any questions or if you want to continue the conversation further, I can personally vouch for each and every one of the panelists and the moderator. They're available online, on email, on WhatsApp, however you want to contact them. They'll be more than happy to engage the conversation further. So please don't let such an important issue just end here with this one workshop. Let's take this further and let's talk about the rights of children. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Hi, Stella, can you hear me? Would you be able to see the podium as well?
Hi, Jasmine. Yes, thank you. I can see the podium. Yeah.
Cool, we can hear you too. Do you want to try with your video as well?
Yeah, because my Wi-Fi is limited, so I won't be speaking, but can I get the other speakers to
Oh,
speak?
okay, doesn't matter. I'm just seeing. Yeah, if you don't want to, yeah, because I thought like if you open the video, then your audio may be shaky.
Oh, okay. I mean, can I check with for the
Okay,
other?
okay, I'll acknowledge that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Hello. Changpeng, can you hear me? Just like to test.
Hey,
Hi,
good to
hi.
see you.
Good to see you. Yeah. Nice, nice.
Hi, Stella. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Thanks, Agita. Can I check with Jasmine?
Yep, we can hear Gita. All good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And Justisha, if you don't mind, could you do a quick check as well as Moisa? Yeah. If you could. Yeah. Video and
Yes.
mic.
Hi. Hi, Stella.
Can you hear me? Oh yeah. Luke, can you confirm? Can you hear?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I
Thanks.
can. Yes. Thank you.
Wait, let me just check with Luke or Jasmine.
Yep, we can hear you.
Both? I mean, could you hear Mo and Justisha?
Could we get Mo to test again?
Mo, could you test again? Sorry.
And well, maybe just Tisha.
Yes, hi.
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear me?
can. Yeah, we can hear you and see you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Stella-san, I'm Moe. Can you hear
Yes. Hi, Moe. We can hear you. Thank you.
me? Thank you.
Will you be turning on your camera?
Camera on?
If you can, we can test now. If not, it's okay.
Okay.
Yep, we can see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Liv, can you confirm the slide sharing? Will it be done by the secretariat side or should I control slide sharing?
Sorry, what was that, Stella?
Slide sharing, is it control or should we control it on our own or can the local side secretariat share from the folder or?
I think I'll ask Jasmine about that, but I'm pretty sure it'll be us who share it from this side.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Just for the online speakers, I just got confirmation that the slides will be shared from our end. Thank you. Chongpeng, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he has to share on his own? Okay, Chongpeng, could you share your slides later on?
I think I just upload my deck file into the Google Drive.
Yeah, but just because it'll be easier for you to share on it, would that be possible?
Okay, that will be fine.
Thank you. It's okay. I'll step that in.
Recording in progress.
To the online speakers and people who are joining us online, we're going to start any minute now. Thank you for your patience and please bear with us today. Thanks. All right, I'd just like to welcome everyone to our panel discussion on the theme of exploring youth perspectives in social media content creation. To give a bit of context as to why this session is relevant to APrIGF, considering the backdrop of the ever-growing popularity of East Asian online culture in Southeast Asian countries, especially how popular culture has deeply penetrated everyday life of youths, exploring the transnational cultural flows which can be assumed to be more inclined in one direction rather than equal two-way exchange. This may prove valuable to understanding new perspectives regarding sexual content generation and consumption on social network sites among youths. This session would address the issues related to transnational influence of East Asian online culture on other Asian communities across Asia Pacific. Our workshop aims to discuss the extent to which culture can shape a youth's content generation, preferences, or tendencies. Also, the speakers would cover the issues related to concept of personal autonomy and data governance for youth, actively creating content. The goal of the discussion is to share experience and knowledge in addressing issues related to technological facilitated gender-based violence, or TFGBV for short. And for the program rundown, we're going to have an introduction, which is happening right now, and we'll move on to the presentations by each speaker. Just to briefly introduce the speakers, we have Mo from KO University, Agita from Bullied App, Cheng Peng from TWSIG, and Justisha from the Lawyers U 2019 Collective for Gender Justice. To start off this panel discussion, I'd just like to invite Cheng Peng, if you're with us, to briefly give an overview of your current involvement in the internet governance field. Cheng Peng, over to you.
Yes, appreciate. Let me share my screen first. Okay.
Yep.
Could you see my presentation?
Yes.
Cool. Hi everyone. I'm Chen Peng. I'm now be a participant in TWSIG, a Taiwan School on Internet Governance, and another deliberative policy platform of Free Taiwan. Today, I'm going to share about some situation in Taiwan, because in the pandemic time, many people in Taiwan are really accustomed to using dating app or some online social platform to make friends. And this is even more prevalent along younger demographics. And as young people, I'm personally didn't using some dating app to use some to send some pretty intimate photo or video, but some of my friends did. So I asked them about this kind of situation, and I think they tend to do this because the online platform can reduce physical interaction between people. So it is kind of leading to the rapid development of this online friendship. So just from a few steps on a smartphone cannot easily expand one social circle, but also eliminate the initial awkwardness of meeting new people. So this platform offers diverse and interesting services such as video chat or some instant dating feature, which are very easy to use and quickly attract a large user base. But however, some scam groups and sexual predators can take advantage of this new emotional needs, using dating app as platform for illegal activities. So lot of youth people can really get being a victim from this online dating app. So we can see there's some risk from the lot of youth people can relate it to this non-consensual intimate image as NCII to this issue, and a lot of growing of dating app open the door for all kinds of scam. And this situation can be increased access to the internet, and the digital technology has led to the rise in crimes against children and youth. And there's one of the methods that the criminal can be used is to obtain this NCII, the intimate images, including building relationship to become an important person or a partner in this youth's life, using sexually suggestive language and offering limited product as bait. And there's some safety concern. This can be tricked into sharing intimate photo to be stopped or harassed. Because when this youth join this instant message account or the dating platform, they may be tricked by this fake ID, or after they have this conversation with this fake ID, they usually cannot find out the fake of this online account. So some of the criminal can take this opportunity to ask this youth to perform some sexual action, or even to provide their own private photo or video, and they can trick the victim if the victim are not willing to comply their action. Like if after the criminal get their private photo or video from the youth people, they can demand labor in exchange, such as using their own bank account to assist in money laundering, or even go to ATM to withdraw cash, effectively becoming a mule for the scheme. So lots of professionals are talking about the dangers of sending the this NCII on the online platform. Okay. So we're talking about some practice in Taiwan, like we're trying to build a more safety environment for youth people, even after they were being checked by those criminals to ask them to share the NCII. So lots of the nonprofit will be asked online service provider to self-regulate, and this online service provider like Facebook or Google, they should offer some protective mechanism and provide channels for user complaint. But in reality, this NCII doesn't end with just one police report from the victim. This file is leaked again to spread to other platforms. So the social worker or this nonprofit accompanies victim to the police station and to express this criminal report. They are really helpless because they have to go to the same on the same image over and over again, because these images are on the different platform. So this situation does really harm this victim. So, and some of the reporting are more functioning on different platforms, not only just Facebook. So our civil society did to make a lot of things to change. There are a lot of nonprofits to begin to lobby for changes for over several years to make the law to be amended to provide better protection for the victim. And as my own organization, V Taiwan, we're trying to build the consultation they can hold between the nonprofit and the government, and even the private sector, who can come together to create recommendation and consensus for the policy changes as the multi-stakeholder mechanism used in the internet governance rhythm. So after the law was amended in the January in this year, so there's a lot of implement was begin that our government just implement the sexual image processing center, and they have the VIP, the green channels with this large platform like Meta or Google. so they can be to allow the nonprofit, the sexual image processing center to do the rapid takedown for this NCII image. And if this platform are not comply, the TWNIC, the Taiwan Network and Information Center, can be seized the domain name via the domain name system response policy zone. They can even block the internet access to Taiwan for this uncompliance overseas platform. So this part, it can be create a more safer online environment for the Taiwanese user. So I think this can be the collective action to prevent the sex torsion. Maybe I can share this kind of mechanism later. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chung Feng, for that comprehensive insights into why the youth may opt for these applications due to the multiple advantages that they seem to give. However, we must note that the youth are vulnerable, as these dangers may be placing them because youth place too much trust in these applications, in these emerging technologies or already existing technologies. And I think this is a great segue into Agita, with your experience in Bullied, the mobile application. The question that I would like to ask you is, what are the best practices that could be applied in developing countries or developed countries for using digital services centered around mental health?
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Hi, my name is Agita. And I think to just give a little bit of background before I'm going to jump into answering the question. So, Bully Indonesia is a tech charity where we are focusing on preventing, responding, and supporting the online harassment victims and survivors using our Bullied app, which is a web-based application. So majority of our team basically coming from lawyers, psychologists, humanitarian, and tech enthusiasts. So basically, I think when it comes to mental health issues, as we are focusing on online gender-based violence, majority of the mental health is becoming the impact of the cases that happen to them. So I actually shared presentation, so I'm not pretty sure whether you're going to be sharing it, but I list down the 5 online harassment that commonly happen throughout our basically we've been receiving that for the past a few years. So trolling or someone online who deliberately provoking argument. And there is an image-based abuse, which is, I think, quite similar to what Chang Peng just mentioned, is one of the, I think, the most cases that we received so far: sexual extortion, deep fakes, and impersonation accounts. So those 5 that majority lead to the mental health issues, the psychological impact, the financial loss, and etc. So think coming to what would be the aspect when it comes to what is the best solutions, I would like to address that. First of all, I think obviously when it happened on online platform, I think social media companies must also really take responsibility for the content that is published on their platform. So emphasizing on moderation, it's really, really important. And I think in Australia, the e-safety has been promoting about the safety by design, which in from the observations that we've been doing, I think it's very important for the technological platform to focusing on moderation, escalation, enforcement, which is understanding what happened and how to respond the incidents and pause the pause response or after the reporting platform, the reporting, and then the user empowerment, and then goes to transparency and accountability. So I think it's really important to not just focusing on enabling the reporting or the blocking features on their platform, but also understanding what happened after that. Is there any support that will be given for the victims or the and what happened with the perpetrators. So I think in terms of on top of obviously the multi-stakeholder collaboration with technological platform, governments, academia, civil society, as well as the parents when we're speaking about youth and children and schools. I think technological platform can really emphasize and invest more in terms of the hybrid human machine moderation system. So we have seen how the moderation using the AI, however, it is not fully able to really identify intimate image abuse content. So especially country coming from the Eastern culture or perspective, it is not necessarily has to be completely nude to be considered as a pornographic content. So I think that's kind of a mindset has to be understood by the human moderator on the technological platform. So I would say to emphasize on what could the social media platform can really invest in on tackling the youth and the impact of the mental health issues due to online gender-based violence issues is the using hybrid human machine moderation system that could able to identify users who could probably experiencing an acute distress or suicidal thoughts, and it routes them to the crisis lifeline or acts as an intermediary to connect those who are seeking help to a peer support network. So I think it's really, really important to emphasize that social media platform or any internet platform, it could be dating platform, it could be video gaming platform, could really work together and hands to hand with the governments as well as civil society organizations to really tackle the issue. I think I will stop there.
Thank you very much, Agita. I'd just like to note that it's great to see how the youth in Southeast Asia are making great strides in the direction of a safer internet built by the youth for the youth. And I'd just like to summarize your points about the past victims' point of view, along with the main ways that these youth may be placed at risk in the virtual world. And also, it's really nice that you pointed out how different cultures have different understandings and lexical items, if you will, to describe nudity, pornography, or sexual content. Additionally, problems may arise when the victim is in different countries or regions compared to the perpetrator. How would the proper procedure be to make sure that the perpetrator is held accountable for their actions? And I think this is a really good transition into our next speaker, Mo, to talk about the content itself. So how do you think creation of sexual content online, especially on social media sites, may affect the psychological health of youths? For example, their self-perceived worth, body image issues, and self-esteem. Over to you, Mo. Thank you.
Thank you for introduction. Hi, I'm Moe Yamauchi, a PhD student of Keio University in Japan. My discipline is sociology, media theory, and information society theory. Today, I'm introduction about the situation of Japanese sexual selfie. And since my research deals with sensitive photographs, please allow me to explain it verbally today instead of on slides. I have researched the sexual selfie which the young women take with smartphone and post to social media in Japan. Many of them take some pictures of their own nude. These photos are decorated with photo application like Japanese purikura, for example, with some cute symbol, heart, ribbon, and so on. The body in sexual selfie is in better style than real body, and the skin is more brighter. Also, in these photos, their faces are hidden with stamp or pixelated obscuring in order to prevent identity from being revealed. They post these selfies to social media like Twitter, X now, while keeping anonymity. Many audience including men and women, see these selfies and they repost or favorite them. I conducted some interviews and talked with them how they think about sexual selfie. And they said that their sexual selfies are the works they create and they show their body what they want to show. So my research revealed that they enjoy experimenting sexual expressions using their own bodies. The attempt is positioned as a practice of preventing men from looking at them sexually without their permission. In Japan, some researchers see it as a problem that large number of selfie construct the ideal body image and the women are stimulated competition in the point of view feminism study. But based on my research, some women accept their own body image through the sexual selfie or various sexual contents. So I think that online sexual content should be made with the awareness that women's dignity is protected. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mo, for sharing your insights. And I think it's really good to mention how, especially for the young women who are facing the challenges of navigating social media and emerging technologies, coupled with the existing inequalities they face, this may lead to detrimental effects. So your research has really been impactful into raising awareness into why maybe some real-life instances of sexual exploitation online may occur. And I myself personally have a great passion in the domain of online linguistic gender stereotypes, which have the potential to shape and change someone's perception, someone's self-perceived self-worth. So on that note, I'd just like to move on to Justicia. And the question that I have for you is, what are the challenges faced in policy making or policy discussions that touch on the theme of online gender-based violence? Over to you, Justicia.
Thank you, moderator. Could you please share my slide presentation?
Yes, we will be sharing your slides. Do you see them?
Yes, I do.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi everyone. So it's very nice to hear from Changpeng, Moore, and Akita as an intro, because my presentation will be more on the policy making and implementation. So we are lawyers for gender justice. We are based in Indonesia. Next slide, please. And we have basically 42 lawyers and paralegals. We are all volunteers. It's mandated by the law that lawyers should provide pro bono legal services. But these numbers are by no means comparable and proportionate to the extent of like the size of Indonesia, because we basically have 17,000 islands and we cannot cover the entire area. Next, please. So just a little bit before getting into the policy making and policy implementation part, the three main pillars of our organization is holistic assistance, basically providing pro bono legal services, psychological services from our partners, and then rehabilitative measures, and then strategic partnership, definitely, and then legal research and policy advocacy in terms of supporting any judicial review of regulations, of laws, as well as being involved in the legislative process itself. So it's also very related to what Changpeng has mentioned, because during the pandemic, this collective was established, and at that time, it's from June 2020 until now, we have received around 465 reports, and then we have basically assisted victims. We got 5 court decisions, and then we have officially became the basically reference
as a legal service providers by the government. Next, please. So just a little bit about the case proportion, because the number of non-consensual intimate image and other OGBV, online gender-based violence cases are very dominant during the pandemic. So as we can see, the NCII makes up 32% of the entire cases that we receive, and then assault definitely, and then sextortion as well as doxing. So basically the blue and then the maroon and the lighter maroon one, those are the OGBV case proportion. And again, the victims are predominantly female, although we have also received reports from transgender people and non-binary people. Next, please. So in terms of the policy situation in Indonesia, we have this draconian law, if I may say. It's called the Electronic Information and Transactions Law, which basically prescribes the criminalization of the dissemination of content against propriety, which basically use the moral standards, acceptable behavior, the religious values, this kind of thing. This is like an umbrella term to accommodate all of the social standards in the society. But the problem with this law, with that particular legal profession, is it's often used to criminalize victims of OGBV or various or particularly NCII, because they were seen as the first person who made and shared the content, despite despite the consent for it to be merely for private use. So it's funny because there's this. It's not funny, but it's sad. It's ironic because it's not only the victims, but also, for example, the boyfriends, and then when it goes to the social medias, people who retweets the content, they can also be criminalized by this law. So the problem with this law is that the government is more focused on combating immoral and pornographic contents. They are more focused on the contents, but not toward the rehabilitation and protection of the victims. And this law is also being used to criminalize, to basically file a complaint under defamation, and it's being used often by perpetrators to retaliate against the victims as well as the lawyers. Next, please. But in 2022, we have this new sexual violence law, which is very progressive. It addressed the OGBV. It addressed the victim's right to demand the deletion of any OGBV related content, the takedown, or basically the takedown, limiting access to the OGBV related content. But now the problem is this law is still very new. It needs implementing regulation. And the problem with the deletion of OGBV related content is that who has the mandate to decide if the content is really is made or disseminated in relation to OGBV, because that they touch on the law enforcement domain. And then who will give the permission to delete? Is it the police? Is it the judges? Is it the court? Or is it the Ministry of Information? And then will the platform still keep the copies? And then when it comes to the legal process itself, many law enforcement agencies in Indonesia, they still want the content to be live because they need the URL. And that's also the reason why many of them are reluctant to accommodate this right, because once it's being deleted, it's no longer online, and then the forensic process will be hampered. This kind of excuses basically. And the situation is that both of this law, both the sexual violence law and the electronic and information transaction law, they coexist right now, and law enforcement agencies, they can choose either way. But these two laws, they have completely different approach when it comes to OGBV. So the situation right now is really, in terms of the policy making, it's ensuring the implementing regulation can accommodate the rights, the operationalization of the rights, and then clarifying the mandates of each government agencies. And in terms of the implementation, definitely it requires training for the law enforcement agencies, because many of them, they still don't know what the sexual violence law is. They keep referring to the very old law that we had in Indonesia. That still happens. And also in terms of implementation, definitely having this close coordination with platforms, because as Ms. Agita has mentioned, it's also under their responsibility to regulate and moderate and to respond immediately to any of these requests. Next, I think that's, yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry if it takes too much time. Thanks.
No worries.
Back to you, moderator.
We're right on time. Thank you, Justisha, for your sharing about your organization and the current initiatives you're engaged in to help create an internet that youths can trust and use safely. And it's just really amazing and worrying, in fact, that just how quickly someone's intimate photos might be shared without their consent. And also on behalf of the youth, I'd like to thank you for including all youth communities in your presentation, truly leaving no community behind. It's been really good so far to get input from different stakeholders regarding this issue. And this truly is a sign of us practicing the multi-stakeholder approach in addressing issues related to youth in internet governance. And I believe that we've reached the open for discussion part of this panel discussion. And before I ask the speakers any follow-up questions, I'd like to open up the floor if they have any questions to ask, or the online participants. I believe we do have one. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alia. So this question is open to any of the speakers. With the ongoing discussion that we are having now, I noticed that the issue of child sexual exploitation has not been mentioned. And when we talk about child exploitation, it entails those aged 18 and under. And this age group do not know better, and they are often pressured by the peers. So my question is, I would just like to ask for your any of you's input and thoughts on this particular issue. Thank you.
I can answer that in terms of I think it's a very good question, Alia. We often do basically emphasizing on the non-consensual intimate image abuse, which NCII is mainly focusing on young people from 18 plus above. We consider them, already being able to stand, in front of the law. However, I think there is quite a lot of issues within the children as well. I'm not really sure in which way that you would like to emphasize more, but I think NMAC, so it's an international organization that pretty much has been working in terms of tackling the child sexual exploitation online. And so there is quite a lot of organization that has already put in place, and majority in every single country, when it comes to children, they have a specific regulations and laws to be in place in order to prosecute the perpetrator. Now, I think the reasons why I think we're emphasizing more towards the young people, which means somebody who's above the 18 years old, because the current regulations is definitely very biased. However, in child exploitations online, I think in terms of an international regulation, it's already being in place, and the collaboration um, among the law enforcement, among the government has been quite strong compared to addressing, one of the main challenge that we've been discussing about online gender-based violence, that focusing on young people, which is above 18 years old and plus. This is a very complex and often considered very cross-border nature of the problem. So we see that the victims and perpetrators may be located in the different countries, and making it very difficult for law enforcement to prosecute offenders and protect the victims. Now, on the aspect of the children, it is completely illegal, and it's a crime to exploit children in any way in terms of pornography or sexual activity. Now, when it comes to young people, especially for those who are 18 years old and plus, if they already have any relations, that become a very complications issues in terms of in terms of the investigations and providing the evidence. So I think at least from my side, why I'm more focusing on specifying and emphasizing the conversation for today on the online gender-based violence, mainly for image-based abuse for the young people and above, because I would like to emphasize that I think it is very important. We can recall, we all here as a young people, and you have the power for you to speak up and also to influence and advocate in your country. On top of a social media company responsibility, there's also a huge responsibility of law enforcement and a government in the country in order to collaborate together, because we are lacking of a international legal framework and collaboration to address online gender-based violence, especially when it comes to cross-border jurisdiction, different countries, and it's leaving victims without adequate protection and support. So I'm going to stop there, but I think some of my other speakers in here could really add on something on that. Thank you.
If I may add, thanks so much, Ms. Agita, for addressing the landscape, the situation. But yeah, during the pandemic, we have also received a case. So it's basically a network of hackers exploiting minor contents, intimate contents from minors, and we weren't able to do anything about it because many of in terms of the law enforcement agencies, sometimes it really falls down to the mutual legal agreements that is owned between countries. So, for example, Indonesia has a MLA with Malaysia, with Singapore, and then if there's any cross-jurisdictional case, we can also ask assistance from the government, from the foreign government, where the perpetrator is located to prosecute the case. But that's not the case that's not really the case with child exploitation, because most of those MLA agreements are very specific to serious crimes such as terrorism and money laundering, things like that. So I can say that in terms of the law enforcement agencies itself, they're not putting so much focus. They're not really prioritizing cross-jurisdictional online gender-based violence. And also in terms of because I'm a lawyer and our organization provide pro bono legal services, it's very difficult for us. It's almost impossible for us to help young people under 18 because we need the power of attorney, and there's a age requirement for that, for someone to give you the power to represent. So in Indonesia, it's 18 years old. But the problem is many of these young people, they are also LGBTIQ, and they're not open yet to their family. They're not open to basically to society. So there are layers and layers of things that has to be unpacked and it's very complex because without power of attorney coming from the family, we cannot really represent them. So that's also the additional complexity with the young people, with the cases, LGBT cases involving young people, especially if they are LGBTIQ communities. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Adela, for raise the importance that the child sexual abuse, because recently in Taiwan the government just amended this kind of regulation as well on this kind of sexual exploitation of children and youth people. These penalties for offensive involving minors can be increased, has been increased. This kind of crime can be filming or distributing such images can be imprisoned up to 10 years, and from for creation and distribution, and even possession without a valid reason has been changed to a penalty can be a maximum sentence for a year. So we are really paying a lot of attention to address the children sexual abuse cannot be tolerated. And I think beside the criminal, the law, I think the cultural aspect should be raised as well, because for children or a teenager, they are really having a demand. They're trying to explore what sex or sexual culture to them. They are trying to explore what their body is. So I think our culture, our cultural or society should allow this kind of issue to be discussed in our family. The parents or the family member should be able to talk this kind of topic, the sexual topic, with their own child or teenager, because if their interest of sex is not fulfilled in their own family, they will try to use internet, because everyone can use internet in nowadays. So the children can be able to discuss this kind of topic in their household in a safe way, instead of talking about sex on the internet with a total stranger. So the society's discussion on sexual topic shouldn't lean conservative in the Asia Pacific area. Thanks.
Thank you, Changpeng. I think Mo would like to give her insights as well.
Yes, I talked shortly. In Japan, there is a program called revenge porn. Young women's sexual photo distribute after breaking up with her boyfriend, and it among young people's problem. And if there is, I think it is important that if there is agreement with women and men, I think that the young people should think about their own body image, and if they can explore their photo and body to social media. So, and it is also and adult thing too. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mo. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Right, we have one, two, three. Okay.
Hi, so my name is Charlotte. So I noticed throughout the discussion there's significant tensions between protecting the victims of non-consensual content online, but also allowing people to have sexual autonomy. So especially I was interested by the example that Moe provided on how in Japan there are some women who are posting out of free will. And you could even say that they feel empowered by the fact that they can choose what parts of themselves that they post online. Whereas Indonesia, there's more focus on criminalizing the actual content, if I understand correctly. So my question was, how do you guys see the governments balancing the protection of victims of online abuse while also allowing for sexual autonomy for others? And also, realistically, would it even be possible for international policies to be made, or would it have to just be up to the individual countries and their own cultural nuances? Thank you. Yeah, I think I would like to get maybe an answer from this Justicia as a lawyer from Indonesia, and maybe Moe on your surveys and maybe your findings on the other side of this.
All right. I'll start first. Thanks for the question. That's a very difficult question, to be honest. Because I mean, in terms of the cultural nuances and then the population, Indonesia is basically the biggest Muslim population in the world. So it's a bit difficult. I mean, there are so many moral standard, religious standards, and then again cultural nuances in each island, in each tribe. So it's just such a diverse country with distinct different approaches in different areas. So I would say that for now, at least, our government, there's been tension between the ministry which basically works on the issue of women empowerment and child protection, with the other ministry like Ministry of Religion and then Ministry of Communication and Technology. So it's a very political situation, which it shouldn't be. But I think my short answer is it is very difficult to balance those two, because even in the provinces, in the regions, they can develop their own regulation, like government regulation, criminalizing any act, any content against any content, any content or any actions against the religious standard. So yeah, Indonesia is a very complex in terms of the moral standards and the regulation and the dynamics really in the government. Yeah, that's from me.
From my opinion, so in Japan these days, the women who post their sexual selfie to social media is arrested by police, and Japanese law, Japanese government made the law which the Japanese adult contents pornography or have so we so the Japanese law is Japanese law in Japanese law it is difficult to arrest the women post sexual selfie in the way of illegal. So, but it is because there is the thought about freedom, so to creation and some works. So, and it is so difficult problem in Japan. In Japan social media, it is talked about. So it is a very difficult problem about as a very difficult problem. So and I should think about it. So I researched my research. So sorry for I'm not good at English. So
It's a great input, Moe. Thank you very much. I think we have just about time for 2 more questions from the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isan. Maybe it's open for any speaker, but if the time is up, maybe it's just for Justicia and Cheng. Some young age and juvenile lately, there are some trends to post sexual things like sexiness or sleeping with GF or BF or something like that, and make it like some cool achievement for them, and to post it with many social media, and many of young people is normalize it. And what do you think about it? And how we define it when many people normalize it? Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
I do have a question, is that personally from my experience in Vietnam, I can see that the age of young people that are exposed to sexual content are decreasing. That's from my point of view, because when I was in high school, I can see that, like compared to people that are older than me, there are, like lots of young teenagers at only in their secondary school, like 10, 12 years old. They have already been exposed to nudes or pornography. But at the same time, Vietnamese governments have not, integrated any educational programs about sexuals or safety and sex in secondary or high schools. I'm not sure about other, situations in different Asian countries. So could you guys, give any opinions about that and any reason why it is not happening right now? Thank you.
I'd just like to invite any speakers who would like to respond to those 2 questions, as we are running pretty short on time.
Okay, I'll answer just very quickly on the first question. I'm not sure it's within my expertise to provide any legitimate answer on that. But in terms of the law, again, if that's basically sexual interaction among minors, the thing about having consent, being able to give consent, is that in front of the law, you need to be at least 18 years old for your consent, for you to be able to give consent. So if it's done with an adult, definitely it's a crime. But if it's just among teenagers and they are under 18 and they make their own content, as long as I feel like at this point they have to be really aware of the situation. We need to, again, as mentioned, as also implied by the second question, the importance of education to make them aware that even when they say it's for private use, again, the situation in Indonesia is not really friendly to that kind of reason. So I think at this point it's not on the we need to push forward the agenda on the physical education campaigns, building awareness among the young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tisha. And just like to confirm if there are any other speakers who would like to provide their insights. If not, I'm going to wrap up this panel discussion.
Yes, thank you from the participant from Vietnam. I think you brought up a very important subject, that is we need more or an inclusive and comprehend sexual education within the school. From the children, they are learning this kind of or everything. They can start to recognize or to start to learn what kinds of sexual stuff is not so dangerous, or it will make it very don't prevent this kind of stuff. Lots of very different stuff. I think you should brought when there's kids in the elementary school. So back in 10 years in 10 years before in Taiwan, when I was a kid, the government started an inclusive sexual education program that will include the how the sex works, or the LGBTQ. Or so when I was a kid, we can start to learn about the different sexual like LGBTQ or stuff like that, so we can be more inclusive and to be more not so arrogant, not so ignorant about this kind of stuff, so we can be more learn about this kind of stuff. So even though our elder people are not still very comfortable about discussion on sexual topic, but I think the youth people in Taiwan can be not so conservative about this kind of issue, so we can not doing stupid stuff about the sexual on our some anything that is sexual. So I think the more of kind of education that we can doing more good is to allow our children to get more opportunity for interpersonal interaction and self-expression, so they don't have to begin their they don't have to raise their self-esteem via communicating with stranger online. So we can cultivate the children's ability to choose and refuse. They can, this kind of practice, they can effectively reduce the likelihood of such incident occurring in the future.
Thank you very much, Cheng Peng. And just to summarize Cheng Peng's views. Yeah. Sorry.
I just want to share a little bit, just add on a little bit, I think, to one of the question from Vietnam. Just to share So we have one of the report as early as 9 years old in Indonesia who already knew how to book prostitution online. So I think this is an emerging issue, and you addressing a very important aspect when it comes to comprehensive sexual education. Here in Indonesia, we don't have that. We have not embedded comprehensive sexual education in our curriculum, and I would really believe that this is an important aspect that we have to emphasize. In my organization, we started to create a curriculum to piloting and to embed the CSE or comprehensive sexual education curriculum for the school as early as 6 years old. And I'm happy to share this to one of the fellow from Vietnam who asked the questions later on. So, but I think once again, the most important aspect it's just not on the top of the on the top of the education per se. If we go back, comprehensive sexual educations and online safety, it has to be embedded and it has to be merged all together. And on top of that, beyond the educating the children, it is also important to basically collaborate and integrate it together with the schools, with the teachers, and the parents. Through our research, basically children are the most active with their social media and the internet when they're going back to home. And majority of the parents are not very much giving surveillance of what actually their children are doing with their social media, whoever that they're communicating. So I think it's really important to put an emphasizing or interest of education system, having the curriculum, educating the children as well as the parents and the teachers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Agita. I'd just like to summarize all the speakers' points of view. So Chengpeng's view is from the perspective of youth experiencing the issue, and Agita is about the efforts to deal with mental health issues as a result of negative experiences with the issue. Moe is sharing focus on trying to understand the motivations behind creation of sexual selfies, and Justitia's view is about dealing with legal cases as well as efforts to address the current existing legislation. On behalf of the APAC Youth, I'd like to extend my thanks to the organizers, speakers, and participants for the efforts in making this youth initiative workshop a success. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug here because in this year's Global IGF in Kyoto, Japan, we can continue this discussion, albeit from a different angle in workshop number 237, which will be on online linguistic gender stereotypes. So this truly shows that the discussion does not end here, as the speakers' statements will also be included in this year's synthesis document. So let's continue to work towards building a safer and more inclusive internet that we can trust, and hopefully this can prove that the youth is providing concrete substance to indicate meaningful youth participation, and we are striving to shape the internet with the next gen in mind. Thank you. If we could get a picture together, if you guys are down for that.
Recording stopped.
Hi, Justicia, Mole. Oh, Justicia left, and Agita and Changpeng. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Not sure if they'll still have a photo up, but
It doesn't seem like
I don't think so.
photo.
Yeah.
So
Oh wait, I think the youth are there, so not quite sure yet.
Yeah, they're gathering the people.
Yeah, I can see them gathering right now. Not so sure if they'll be showing you guys on the screen or if they could hear us. But I'm not so sure if they can hear us right now.
I think I'm not sure if we are actually visible in their
Yeah.
front. So
Yeah,
yeah,
don't think.
I gotta leave everyone, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agita and Chengpeng
Thank you
and
so much,
Moe. Thank you so
everyone.
We're trying to include the remote people on that screen. Also hold for like 10 seconds. Okay, good. Yeah, we got
Oh yeah, they're turning the screen off.
here on the side. One more, smile, one more, one last one. Smile, and done.
Thank you, Moy-san. Thank you, Chun-san. Okay, thanks,
I
everyone.
thought you were turning off your webcam.
Thanks. I'll contact you guys later. Thanks again. You can drop off.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Luke and Jasmine. Sorry. Okay.